All right. So today we're already in chapter 3, but we're moving into power. Now, from the beginning, we had a more like an introduction of all those parts of computer. That's the identification of those computers and all that. But this time around, we're going deep into each of them, all right? Which we've already started. Okay, after the assembling, we're able to talk about we talked about the BIOS of a system and the UEFI of a system. That's the configuration of the hardwares, that the hardwares and components of that computer system. So now we're moving forward to the power today, to understand how do you calculate the power? How do you go around the wattage and voltage? Okay, so that's what we'll be talking about. So I'll be sharing the screen briefly now. So one thing I want to say before I start is the labs are piling up, okay? And I really need us to start coming together for the labs, okay? Very, very key. I really don't know how close everybody is. We could use Office at Aja. I'm still trying to see if I could get closer, you know, maybe get a little bit closer, maybe at Songo Tedo, but I've not seen a good center there. But the center I can actually work with is at Aja. That's what I mean, is where they have those parts of computers we can actually make use of and all that to take the class. So I'm looking at moving closer towards Songo Tedo for those coming from far. So because of the Saturday, really, it has to be from 12 o'clock upward. And it's very important. The labs are important. There's no way about, okay, let's leave it the way it is. No, they are important. We have to go through the labs together. We have to be able to see the parts, identify the parts, you understand, troubleshoot some, you know. So when you're in the field as well, you'll be able to build yourself around it and understand the technical aspects of what we're doing. So please, the payment for your tools, okay, is important, very, very important. And I really need people to come together and get this done. So for the groups who are ready, group leaders, I'll have to start dealing with you directly. For those who are ready, pick a date, okay, and let's move on. Or pick a date, pick a time, and let's move on. It's a Saturday, we all know it's a Saturday, but we need to know the timing so we can, because when we start, we need to finish what we start. Okay, so it's very important for every one of us to take this serious. I understand for those who are not in Lagos, on that very day when we're doing the practicals for your group, we'll do a video and you will have the video as well. Okay, so I understand two people. Nifemi is not in Lagos right now, and Felix is not in Lagos right now. Okay, so please, let's get into this practical and finish this class at the specified time. And so we can move into actions and move into, you know, because the exams are still there. You've done chapter 1, chapter 2, we're in chapter 3 now. Chapter 1 exam is still there, chapter 2 exam is still there. Apart from the practicals, you have to still do those exams before your final exam. And at this particular course, you know, Cisco take it very, very serious because it's the foundation of IT. This particular course you're doing is like the key foundation of IT. So when you build yourself around this course and you're good at it, every other courses or every other upgrade you're going to be doing, you know, you're already a technical personnel through this course. And you can do any of the industrial exams you want to, starting from CompTIA A+ and, you know, N+, like that. All right. So please take note of that. So today, let me share the screen so we can get started. All right. If you can see the screen, please just if you can't see the screen, let me know, but I've shared the screen. All right. The last time we saw install third-party software in Windows, which is part of the lab we're going to do, part of our labs. So we're moving to wattage and voltage. Okay. Wattage and voltage. Now we want to look at the power supply around a computer system. We want to look at the power supply around a computer system. Okay. So power supply specifications are typically expressed in watts. Power supply specifications are typically expressed in watts. So to understand what a watt is, refer to the interactive image, which we're going to look at now, which describes the 4 basic units of electricity that a computer technician must know. 4 basic. We have the voltage, we have the resistance, we have the current, and we have the power. Okay? So the basic equation known as Ohm's law expresses how voltage is equal to the current multiplied by the resistance. Now, there is no much calculation. For some people, when they just see V equals to IR, they will like, hey, we're getting into serious. No, this is just a simple understanding of how wattage works. It's not a further mass we're trying to go into. So in an electrical system, power is equal to the voltage. Power is equal to the voltage multiplied by the current. Okay? So let's look at the first one, which says voltage. Voltage is a measure of work required to move a charge from one location to another. This is a measure of work required to move a charge from one location to another. A computer power supply usually produces several different voltage. Okay? We have the one of 3.5 volt, we have the 5 volt, we have the 12 volt. Okay, which we're going to be seeing. Then let's look at the resistance. Resistance is measured in ohms. Okay, this refers to the opposition to the flow of current in a circuit. This refers to the opposition to the flow of current in a circuit. Lower resistance allows more current to flow through a circuit. A good fuse has low resistance or almost 0 ohms. So let's take note of that. Then we look at the current, and they all have a symbol. The symbol of voltage is V, the resistance is R, the current is I. It's measured in amperes, okay, or amps. This is a measure of the amount of electrons moving through a cycle per second. Computer power supply deliver different amperage for each outage, for each output voltage. Okay, then the last one is power. Power is measured in watts. So this is a measure of the work required to move electrons through a circuit, which is voltage, multiplied by the number of electrons going through that circuit per second, which is current. Computer power supplies are rated in watts. All right, so let's move to the next now to see some of the discussions we have. Now, I mentioned this the last time, that when you have buy a system for the first time, a power supply, you always have the voltage. You always have the voltage, okay? And the voltage for Nigeria is 220 volt to 230 volt. For abroad is 110 volt to 115 volt. Now, at the back, on the back of some power supply is a small switch called the voltage. The small switch called the voltage selector switch. If you can see me clearly, if you can see the arrow, you see me, that's the small red voltage at the power supply. This switch sets the input voltage to the power supply to either be 110 volts to 115 volt or 220 volt to 230 volt. A power supply with this switch is called a dual voltage power supply. Now, every power supply that you have on your computer always come with this switch. So please, it's always important, especially when you buy a new system, before you plug it to the alternative, that's the wall of your socket, make sure you have shifted this thing to 220, because if it is still in 1110 and 115 and you plug it, it will blow the capacitors inside the system. Very important. Okay, so a power supply with this switch is called a dual voltage power supply. The current voltage setting is determined by the country where the power supply is used. Setting this voltage switch to the incorrect input voltage could damage the power supply and other parts of your computer. If a power supply does not have this switch, it automatically detects and sets the correct voltage. That if it doesn't have it, that means the power supply has a auto set. But most power supply you see today always have it at the back. So very, very important. So the caution is, do not open a power supply. Electronic capacitors located inside of a power supply can hold a charge for extended period of time, meaning no matter how you claim you're an engineer, don't open a power supply even when you are switched it off. The capacitors in that power supply still hold charge of electricity. That's what they're trying to say. So it's very, very important to know that. For me, I always tell people, I don't see a reason why you have to try to repair a power supply. Once the power supply is blown, go and buy another one. Don't try to start opening it, because it's very risky. So there's a lab here for us. Like I told you, IT Essentials is full of lab work. You understand? So let's look at this lab, and this one has to do with calculation. Each group needs to do this. You know, this one doesn't require us meeting, but it's a lab that you need to do. It says, answer the following questions based on electricity and Ohm's law. Show all steps when solving problems. A says, what are the 4 basic units of electricity? Provide the variable name and symbol and unit name and symbol, which is what we talked about. Then write the equation for Ohm's law. Then rearrange the Ohm's law equation to solve the following. Okay, then power is equal to voltage multiplied by current. Add the missing information. So this is just a lab for electricity, which you do some few calculations on it. So each department should look into this. Sorry, each group should look into this lab. Okay, and if you want us to do the lab together as a group, you can invite me when you're doing your lab. So this lab can be done online. You don't have to, you know, meet physically to do this particular one. It has to just be an understanding, you know, fix your own time, get on it, read it, go through it together, then you submit, okay, for this particular one. So those that require the physical ones are the, you know, the first chapter 1, chapter 2, then the install Windows, okay, which has to do with you installing the Windows and installing third-party softwares. But for these ones, it has to do with just a normal, just the way we had the normal lab work. So you just group yourself, get it done, so you can submit this particular one. If you have any question, please ask before I continue. Any question? Okay, no question. So I'll continue. I believe everybody is hearing me clearly.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, good. So we move to fluctuation, power fluctuation types. Power fluctuation types. Voltage is a measure of energy required to move a charge from one location to another. We talked about that earlier. The movement of these electrons is called current. Voltage is a measure of energy that required to move a charge from one location to another. Now, that movement of that electron is called current. So, computer circuits need voltage and current to operate electronic components. When the voltage when the voltage in a computer is not accurate or steady, computer components might not operate correctly. So this is very important. That's why most of the UPS you have, what is UPS? UPS is uninterrupted power supply. They don't play with. If your current is not okay, the UPS will not function, because the work they do there is to make sure current is stable. It's not stabilizer. Okay? Stabilizer can try to stabilize the light and see how the current is flowing and bring it up, down. But UPS wants to protect your machines from getting spoiled. So it doesn't play around or play with low current. Once it's not meeting the adequate current that is needed by the computer system, it will not power on for you to use the system. So you don't damage it. So that is how the UPS works. So let's look at unsteady voltages are called power fluctuations. So we look at the types of power fluctuations that we have. So the following types of AC. AC means alternate current, while DC means direct current. AC is the current that comes from the wall of your computer. Sorry, the wall of your house. Sorry, the wall, you know, the electric wall of your house or your office is what we call the AC current. While the DC current is the direct current that you have on the power supply. Please note that, it's very important. So we want to look at the types of AC power fluctuation. That's the power that is coming from your socket point and that can cause data loss of hardware failure. So let's look at it. First, we have the blackout. The blackout is a complete loss of AC power. That means a blown fuse, a damaged transformer, or a down power line can cause a blackout. No light at all, that's what it means. Blackout. Like we normally have blackout in Nigeria all the time. And it goes for like 4, 5, 6 hours, sometimes days before it gets back. So we have what we call brownout. Brownout is a reduced voltage level of alternate current power that lasts for a period of time. Brownout occurs when the power line voltage drops below 80% of the normal voltage level and when electrical circuits are overloaded. Now, this brownout, I think, is one of the key things that happens in many homes within Lagos, you know, because of the overloaded. we find out that the current that comes in doesn't even stable to carry your freezers or stable to. So what they're trying to do, they call it brownout. Yes, you have light, but that light is not serving that purpose. Okay, it's not 80%. It drops below 80% of the normal voltage level. And when electrical cycles are overloaded, okay, so it's called brownout. Then we have the one called noise. Noise is interference from generators and lightning. Noise results in poor quality power, which can cause errors in computer systems. Now, please, it's very important. If you have a UPS and a particular current comes from your alternate current and your UPS is making some noise, please don't hesitate to just switch off the system. Don't send the signal, because many stabilizers today develop this particular problem. Okay, so there's what we call spike. Spike brings in sudden increase in voltage that lasts for a short period and exceeds 100% of the normal voltage on a line. Okay, so spikes can be caused by lightning strikes, but can also occur when the electrical system comes back on after a blackout. Now, this spike always happens most of the time. When NEPA brings light back or electric, I know some of you might not understand what NEPA is, but for those who understand, electric, if it's electric, eco-electric or Ikeja electric, we used to call it NEPA before, okay, before they became eco-electric. And then, so eco-electric or Ikeja electric, when they supply light, that's when they take light, when there is a blackout and they are bringing back the light, most times it comes, there's always a spike, meaning the voltage will be higher than the normal voltage. So if you have an equipment connected directly to your alternate current without a stabilizer, the spike comes like a full force before it now comes normal. So when they bring that particular current, or there's a thunder strike, it increases that voltage. So the voltage go beyond 100%. What they are saying to say is that particular spike can damage a computer system. Okay? Then we have what we call power surge. Power surge is a dramatic increase in voltage above the normal flow of electricity current. A power surge lasts for a few nanoseconds or 1 billionth of a second. So sometimes that's why most times when you have a socket point, a lot of people like putting a power surge protector in all their lights, because this one happens almost all the time. You might just have a light, and before you know one thing, there's an increase that comes, that flows between the line. Okay, so that increase can cause a problem. It's just within nanoseconds, like they mentioned, as in you won't even, within a twinkling of an eye, the light is high and it affects a lot of things there and it comes normal again. Okay, so for that power surge, it's always important you have your extension boxes or your socket boxes to have a power surge that stops the power surge problem. Okay, so that is it for the power fluctuation. So we're going to talk about power protection devices. So what are the power protection devices? That's what you're saying. When you're buying a system, you're buying a computer system, you must be able to buy surge protectors. It's very important. Okay, this is very important. You don't give a computer, you don't give a quotation to assemble a computer without putting a power surge, okay, or a power protection devices. Okay, so we're looking at some of them now. We're looking at power protection devices to help shield against power fluctuation problems. Use devices to protect the data and computer equipment. Very, very important. So we have the surge protector. Surge protector helps protect against damage from surges and spikes. The surge suppressor diverts extra electrical voltage that is on the line to the ground. Then the amount of protection offered by a surge protector is measured in joules, okay? The higher the joule rating, the more energy over time the surge protector can absorb. Once the number of joules is reached, the surge protector no longer provides protection and will need to be replaced, okay? So what they are saying is there's a particular time where that particular surge protector must be changed. When it gets to the number of joules that it has been reached, the rating. Once it gets to that rating, then you have to replace it. Okay, so we now have another one called uninterrupted power supply, which is the UPS I mentioned earlier. It helps protect against potential electrical power problems by supplying a consistent level of electric power to a computer or other devices. The battery is constantly recharging while the UPS is in use. Then the UPS provides a consistent quality of power when brownouts and blackouts occur. So many UPS devices can communicate directly with the computer operating system. This communication allows the UPS to safely shut down the computer and save data prior to the UPS losing all battery power. So sometimes you have some UPS that you can configure. So as soon as light goes off and the UPS gets to 10 minutes, it will automatically shut down your system. Whatever thing you're doing, it will shut it down properly. Now, the reason is this. When your system is not shut down properly, you might have a crashed system. We talked about the memory, how the memory functions. There must be a proper shutdown of a computer system for you to keep it safe. But if the computer is working and it keeps going off like that, it keeps piling up some data in a wrong environment. And by the time you power it on, your system might have issues. So that's why they're protecting it with the UPS. Then we have what we call the standby power supply, which is the SPS. So SPS protect against potential electric power problems by providing a backup battery to supply power when the incoming voltage drops below the normal level. The battery is on standby during normal operator. When the voltage decreases, the battery provides DC power to a power inverter, which converts it to AC power for the computer. This device is not as reliable as a UPS because of the time it takes to switch over to battery. If the switching device fails, the battery cannot supply power to the computer. Now, most standby power SPS, they always malfunction. So a lot of people put it in their generators. Immediately their light goes off like this. You see the standby power supply, it will pick up their generator immediately. The generator will start working. Okay, so just the way you have it, it doesn't let your light go off, no matter what it takes. But the problem is not, you can't have 100%. That's what they're trying to say here. Because sometimes it takes a lot of time for it to switch on. Something that is supposed to switch on within nanoseconds, you find out that the light, you actually feel your light going off. Whereas the essence of the SPS is for your light not to go off at all. Okay, you just switch to whatever light available in 1 second. You won't even notice that light has gone off. Okay, so that is the work of the SPS. So most banks actually use it. Why some don't use it? You just see when they take light, you see the light will go off, but everybody will shout, hey, they will now go and on it again. So most times, a good organization has a SPS because of the data and all the information they have on their system. So once you have the SPS connected, your light doesn't go off, no matter what. Once light go off, the SPS hold on in the nest is switched on immediately and connects your gen up. You just see the light back, as in the light just stays within few minutes. Okay. So a UPS manufacturer suggests never plugging a laser printer. This one I always tell every client. Don't buy a UPS and connect an extension box to a UPS and connect your printer on that extension box. It will damage the UPS. Laser printers generally are not plugged on a UPS. That's why they put the caution here. UPS manufacturers suggest never plugging a laser printer into a UPS because the printer could overload the UPS and it damage it. All right, so we'll be going off and logging in back because I have to save in 1 minute now. Okay. If you have any question, you can ask before we move to the next stage.